Hey guys, and welcome to Fatherhood. You are listening to the Dad's Group podcast, a place where you and I get to connect with incredible leaders, shape the future of fatherhood together, and dig deeper into what is happening inside the minds and hearts of new and expecting fathers. In this episode, we'll be interviewing one of our Dad's Group legends, Sam Hardeman. Sam is a stepfather / father figure and brings so much wisdom and encouragement to us today. He has encouraged me a lot in my own fatherhood journey, so even though he has no biological kids of his own, I hope that his commitment and passion to step up into his role will encourage you also. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands we all meet on today. I'd like to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people we have listening to this episode today. Cheers guys, hope you enjoy.
Welcome everybody to the Fatherhood Stories for Digital Dads Group. Today we have an incredibly exciting guest. We've got the brother of the co-founder of Dads Group, Sam Hardeman. He's Kate's brother. And I've just said that all spun around. So I will take whatever I say today with an absolute grain of salt. I've had a hell of a night with our 7-month-old dads, and you all know what that feels like. So just be patient with me, but I'll try to spit out the words as well as I can. But we're so excited to have Sam on today. Sam's story is pretty unique, in fatherhood. It's rare where we actually get to have these valuable conversations with people in Sam's position. Sam is in a stepfather role. And we know that there's a lot of fathers out there. We talk a lot about expecting fathers, but we also want to make a real point of being really mindful that we're very welcoming and want father figures and all kinds of father figures involved and engaged in our organisation. So before we go any further, I would like to pay respect to those pay respect to the Wurundjeri people and the Kulin Nation. Pay respect to those past, present and emerging, and those babies that are born today. We wish you all the very best and all the best health and all across Australia. So Sam, mate, finally was able to spit all that out. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you, mate?
Oh, I'm good. Well rested. So I'm sorry, dude. I do not envy your position, but I know that that's part of fatherhood, and I think you're doing incredibly well to just be on the call. So you're forgiven for any slip ups.
Oh, thanks heaps, mate. Really appreciate it. We won't talk too much about me. We're really interested to start to hear about you, mate. Tell us a bit about yourself and the family dynamics that you have.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll go back a little bit, maybe to my first encounter with step parenting, which was with my my ex, Jessie Reimers, and she had two little boys. One, Dom, who was 9 at the time, and Ned, that was 5. And I I stepped into that sort of relationship, madly in love, and and just confidence of I can do this, and both boys, didn't. One, Ned, the younger one, had his father involved, and then Dom, he didn't really see his dad at all. I stepped into that relationship kind of, wanting to, be, a man for those boys and help them grow, not necessarily be their father, but, just be a person that they could talk to, relate to, and grow with, in the family environment.
Cool. How long ago was that?
Was maybe 4 years ago now. So and then we dated for about a year or so, and we were living together at the time, and in the house and that sort of thing, and just things fell apart for various reasons and stuff, and that was tough and challenging. But I relocated from the Gold Coast to the Sunshine Coast, and then sort of just started out my life a little bit differently, and I was sort of single for about maybe 15 months before I met my girlfriend currently, which is Elizabeth. A beautiful woman who's got a little boy, Jack, who's now currently 5.5. And we've been dating now for 18 months. So,
do you live together?
No, we don't. We kind of decided not to, and that's got its own challenges as well. But it's also been really, really good though in terms of nurturing the relationship between myself and Jack. And just going at it maybe with a different approach. Being a bit more gentle and considerate of each other's needs and where we're at in life. And she only lives a kilometre down the road, so it makes it very easy for me to just pop in and say hello and hang out and stuff. And and just like build a really like loving relationship. And I really feel like it's we're seeing it pay off. Jack is very attached to his mum because his mum pretty much raised him on her own from pretty much birth, and you saw his dad maybe like on the weekends and that sort of thing. So sort of stepping in, being Elizabeth's boyfriend and really trying to just be Jack's friend at first, I feel. And that took a little bit of getting used to, and it's hard because you also want to be that authority figure, and you kind of have to hold your tongue a little bit in terms of like maybe calling some things out around the household that might not align with you, but then you've also got to realize you're like, hang on a second, I'm not yet Jack's stepdad per se. I'm just dating, like and still need to know my place, but I still try and call him out and just be like, Jack, did you hear what your mum said? Like, can you go and do that? And it's all, like I said, all these little things are paying off, even though it's been hard. And knowing Jack and who he is, being very strong-willed and determined. I know.
I thought that was all 5-year-olds.
Oh, is it? Oh, phew.
I think,
okay, it's not just that.
You say determined, I say something else, but well, that's a whole nother story, mate. How did you both meet? How did you and Elizabeth meet?
Yeah, strangely enough, it was in the middle of COVID, so it was like I don't know, September 2020, I think. So and so in the peak of COVID, and I was just like, I want to meet someone. So I went on a dating app called Hinge, put up my information, like, what I was kind of like looking for in a relationship, and just went about dating very intentionally to try and find someone that was going to be, sort of compatible for me, and understood my values and who I am, but then someone that I wanted to grow with and wanted to have a serious relationship that would ultimately lead to a marriage.
Yeah, cool. Did you know early on, like how early on did you know that she had Jack with her?
Pretty much from day dot.
Yeah.
She was pretty honest and upfront about that. But because of my previous relationship, with Jessie and her boys, entering into another, relationship with a stepchild, I didn't find it as intimidating as probably what most guys might have felt. I always knew that I had the capacity to take on board that role, It just feels and looks a bit different,
Yeah, cool. Mate, I think you've been on one of these before, so you kind of got a bit of an idea of how it flows. Is that this conversation's usually driven by what comes up and through your story, and so if there's a couple, generally there's a couple of points that pop up, I'll kind of lock in on that. I want to come back to, you said before about, and also actually just a quick little bit about me. We kind of relate a little bit where I've been, I still am. The stepson, my stepfather came along when I was about 8 years old. My parents split when I was about 5 or 6. I can never really recall. And yeah, he came along when I was about 8. So, you know, a couple of years later. And, you know, the moment I met him, you know, I don't know, for some reason I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel concern. I actually was gravitated to him straight away. My sister was a whole other story. She was, you know, entering her teens, and she just went in straight into I hate your guts mode. But not now, but she did in her teenage years, which we still laugh about. But so I was on the other end, you know, I was on the other side of it. And so I just find it really interesting hearing from someone that, you know, is going through those early stages. I'm keen to understand a little bit more on when you say, you know, I need know my place, you know, like I need to know my place. What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Yeah, maybe just understanding what my role is as a step parent, you know, and who am I, you know, to Jack, you know, what do I want to be? And I really feel like, you know, that took a little bit of thought and time, you know, to understand that for myself and then get clear on that for kind of like Elizabeth and Jack. You know, I think I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to almost like be his dad at first, like, you know, and it took maybe 3 to 6 months for me to sort of figure out, what is my role here? Like, how do I help? You know, what do I do? How do I influence Jack? You know, so you know, he grows up in a positive way. And that just took time. It took, you know, my own personal experience of being in the relationship, you know, to understand that. It took a little bit of reading up information, you know, from myself. And then, I don't know, speaking to other men, you know, understanding, you know, what they've done in situations, I think has been really, really pivotal and helpful.
Yeah, that's really great. And I imagine that it sounds like you're talking a bit about, you know, working out what your identity is to him, which, you know, when anyone that's in the middle of a space of not really knowing their identity in such an incredibly you know, big area of their life can be quite a challenging time. Was it challenging during that period where you kind of, who am I, what am I, you know, to someone and or people, so Jack and also Elizabeth, that mean the world to me, but who am I right now? Was it challenging during that time?
Yeah, it is. Hey, it's challenging because you're trying to figure out, do I like this person? You know, can I see a future with them? You know, do we share the same values and interests? You know, can I work through the difficulties of, you know, this child? You know, and getting to know him and, you know, understand kind of like maybe the, you know, the bits that aren't working, and then, you know, being able to almost like push through in a way, but go at it with, maybe if something's not working, all right, how can I approach this differently, you know? So I can be, you know, loving and supportive, you know, for Elizabeth and also Jack, and make it a really like fun and, you know, and fruitful kind of relationship, you know, that lights you up and that makes you want to be around each other.
It sounds like it certainly sounds like it's had its ups and downs, but it's pretty clear on why the decision's been made to just still have your separate environments in terms of your own homes and your own spaces still, which is I mean, 18 months isn't really that long. Like it's still quite new in the grand scheme of things. You know, so just the last thing on around your working out your role, I imagine, have you and Elizabeth actually spoken about it together yourselves, as in like, you know, what she thinks that you and your role is?
Yeah. I think she knows that role is going to change. You know, it's a forever evolving, based on, you know, your circumstances of where you're at, not only in the relationship, but also in life as well. Like, and I feel like at the moment, you know, Elizabeth just said, like, I've got the parenting stuff like down pat. You know, you know.
Sorry.
She's
she must have
like
that unicorn guide of
she's
parenting that no one has.
she's pretty good. You know, being you know, mostly raising them up from birth, like you know, and not having much help around, like you know, is you know, full credit to her. You know, and you know, she just knows Jack like so well inside out, you know. So when I'm around, you know, me just even helping out a little bit, just like, you know, lights a dashboard up, you know.
That's great, mate.
So she's so you know, just happy, you know, just having me around and when I am and how, you know, and just helping out in little ways. Yeah, because those little things, you know, build that relationship, you know, 100%. Between me and Jack. And
do you do any school pickups or drop-offs or anything like that yet? That's all, Mum?
Not yet. Yeah, I think that'll come in time. You know, at the moment for me, it's more about being a friend to Jack. You know, being a mate. And helping him. Yeah, with the little things in his life. You know, whether it's, you know, having a shower and getting into his pajamas, or reading a storybook, or just, you know, playing with him out in the backyard and some soccer, or going to his soccer game, you know, just me being around and loving upon him, I think has been pivotal, you know, in growing the relationship. Because when I have tried to like almost come in as like a bit more of an authority figure and almost a bit hard, it's gone the other way.
You know? They're so quick to work people out. Hey, like, you know, it's just like anything though, right? Like in anywhere in life, you've got to have somewhat of a relationship with someone before you can act as any kind of, you know, authoritative figure or whatever. Like as you know, like I coach footy on the weekends, and I've got a bunch of guys that are between the ages 16 to 20, and you know, and all sporting environments or team environments, you've really got to have a relationship with people to be able to then to build that trust, to build that you know, to build that partnership. And so it's the same with being a parent or a father figure or a parent figure, you know. And so if you go at a bull in the gates, you know, you expect to see, you know, their eyes light up red. You know, so it's interesting that what you're talking about, and I know that there are a lot of people that see themselves as stepfathers or father figures that I know would be getting some really good value out of what you're saying here. And I think it sounds like your approach has been, you know, something that I think would work best. I mean, I don't know if, you know, I think it doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is going to equal out no matter what. You know, there's still going to be children that are going to push back. And so how's it gone for you? How does Jack feel about you, do you think? What do you think he sees you? What do you think he thinks about you?
I think you know, we've turned a real corner, hey? Like probably from about September last year almost, I reckon. Like he can just see that you know, I'm being really loving and supportive of him in my own way, and you know, doing those little exercises and things around the home have really helped bring us closer together, and we're just building that trust with each other. And even so now, like I'm starting to almost like call Jack out on a little bit of his behavior, and it's like, Jack, should you be doing that? Like, come on. And then he thinks about it.
So a soft approach.
Oh yeah, try a soft approach. And that is also really working really well, you know, rather than probably a father who can be a bit more hard and fast, with how he disciplines, but I've had to come at it being a lot more, gentle and thoughtful,
Interesting. And that's actually something I'm keen to touch on there. So the father, he's still present. It sounds like he's still involved.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have much of a, have you had much to do with him at all? Or is it?
At this stage, not really, just because of the complications that have been around their relationship and what Elizabeth and and her ex have sort of had to go through. But I feel like that will come in time. I'm not one that has to be rushed. Feeling that has to be rushed. I feel like at the moment it's more about building that relationship with Jack, and and I think Dave will come to see the person that I am, and then I only have love for him, and to support Elizabeth, and I feel like that relationship will just grow in time, with his dad.
Yeah, that makes sense. And have you found yourself in a position where you've had to somewhat back up what dad has maybe said, or something he's, like, say for example, Jack says, dad said that I can't do, X. And have you found yourself using opportunities to kind of, if you agree with it, obviously, back him up a bit?
I haven't really noticed those situations come up just yet. But I know they will in time, and I know Elizabeth and her ex have very different parenting styles,
Right.
So,
right.
It's kind of like, trying to see and understand and make sense of both of them.
Yeah.
And then,
are yours similar? Are your parenting styles similar, yours and Elizabeth's?
Yeah, I think so. There are some things that, are a little bit hard at times in questioning and in terms of discipline or like, and that sort of stuff. But, we do find common ground, and, and we're able to, help each other in that, so.
I think everyone has that, mate. I think Blair probably has that. I think Tom probably has that. I think, I don't think any relationship or partnership, has everything aligned at, 100% of the time. I mean, probably a lot of the time, especially a healthy one. But it's rare not rare. It's not uncommon to have differences of opinions or different styles that don't quite match up at times, and sometimes it can be of a similar nature. Like it could be something so similar that Katie might feel about something that William is doing isn't okay, but then something really, really similar again, she might be okay with it and I'm not. So and the reason I was asking about that stuff though, mate, is because, again, if I kind of think about something I realized later on in life as I was an adult, I was thinking about my values and who I am and kind of working out my identity. My dad and my mum are two very different people. Right?
Yeah, they are.
My mum and my stepdad are very similar. I've got the differences as well, but you can see how they match. You can absolutely see how they match. My dad and my stepmom, you can see how they match. So I kind of look at it, and so what I'm getting at is that my stepdad, who he is as a person, and my father are two very different people, got quite different values, got different beliefs, that kind of thing, but two very, very influential people to me. And so it kind of, I realized later on that I was sort of stuck between this world of not really sure of how I am, who I am, And so that's why I was curious as to, if there's differences, how do you have you found that you've, a time where you found it kind of difficult to ensure that the person in the middle, which is Jack, kind of gets that point? Do you know what I mean? That sort of understands that everyone's got their differences, but he's going to develop his own at some point.
I think so. It's that's the challenging part, I think, of having, parents who live in different houses, that he needs to sort of figure out, what's right for him, and it's a yo-yo, it's a juggling act, for him. And, we even notice like the transition of when he's been at his dad's house to then when he comes back with his mum, and just how, he's more wired, he's more, he's been, very stimulated, doing different things with his dad, so to just bring him into our environment and to try to just understand how we, try to parent or model him, it's a real process. And it can take, 12 to 24 hours for that adjustment to sort of happen,
Yeah. So I'm keen to know, mate, what's the impact that you want on? And again, he's young, obviously very young, and the relationship is still working its way through, but as it currently stands, what's the impact that you would like to have on Jax, to say, when he's an adult? What would you like to see? What kind of values, or how would you like to see him as a person? And how do you want to impact on that?
Yeah. I want Jack to be able to make decisions for himself. I want to make good ones, I want to I think
sounds so simple.
Yeah, I know, but I think as well, like, I feel like Jack is incredibly lucky because he has his dad, but he also has this, step parent sort of figure that, he can come to and talk to about, anything. And it's often a lot, what I've heard from other people, it's a lot often to express, different things, to your step parent as it is to like your actual parents. Like, because there's no, I don't know, it's a different relationship. There's not as much like judgment or maybe disappointment if you share or express that, because sometimes when you speak to your parents, you're like, oh, I can't say that to my dad, like he'll be disappointed in me or that. But I really feel like I can be that for him, that good listening ear, but also to just have lots of fun with him too, because we do, like, we have these awesome times, hanging out, and my like approach and parenting style is different to his dad because we're very different people. So so I feel like Jack's going to experience two different flavors of almost like fatherhood or mentoring, in that way.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point you talk about before, around, a lot of us just spending quality time with him, and I suppose it highlights that really at the end of the day, in that sort of situation, whether you're a father or a stepfather or a father figure, it's all, matter what, the most simplest thing to do is spend quality time with your children. They don't need, all the best gadgets, and it doesn't. Yeah. So the same principles apply, don't they? Yeah. I mean, I suppose yours is perhaps a bit different because, the only difference is that you're starting from a point where they're already gained some years into his life. You also didn't have that early parenting thing of, when they're born and things like that. So you're starting from a ways back comparatively, but yet the same principles of spending quality time and what that does for your relationship and their development and their learning and just understanding life still applies. Hey.
Yep. 100% agree. And just because I'm starting now, doesn't mean that it's not going to be something, really meaningful and purposeful,
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I really feel like, I can have a huge influence on his life, you know. And I know I'm not, you know, around all the time, but it's all those just like little things that I do and who I am that will, I feel, make him really question stuff. And you can see it even just from a young age, you know, and that's exciting to see, you know.
Yeah, cool. I love that, mate. I've got one last question for you, mate, as we start to wrap up, and you know we could talk for hours. And
Yeah,
it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Mhm.
For the stepfathers or the father figures out there that are struggling to understand their role, or to sort of you know, building that, you know, struggling to find common ground or build that relationship and have a good relationship with their stepchild or stepchildren.
Mm.
What's one bit of advice that you would give to them, that, you know, to help them with what, you know, from what you've learned already, what bit of
Mm.
advice would you give to them?
Go slow. Don't put too many expectations upon yourself. Yeah, I think they're kind of like the key things. You know, just have fun and enjoy spending time, you know, with this little human. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, they, you know, will, you know, make you smile, laugh, cry, and sometimes be incredibly like frustrated and annoyed, and sometimes bring you to the point of, you know, anxiousness or being overwhelmed, you know. But in amongst it all, you know, just keep paying attention to the good things, you know, that are there,
Yeah.
and you know, just loving upon their mum, you know, in it all, you know, because being able to do that and show that is and mentor that is pivotal, you know. And then he sees, you know, what you're doing, and he'll model that in his own life.
What a great note to finish on. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Actually, before we do wrap up, is there any other questions that Blair or Tom have for Sam, or any comments from what he said? Feel free to open up now. You've got 3 seconds to say something. If you don't, I'm going to cut you off, and we'll start to wrap up.
Thanks, Sam and Adam and Blair. This has been really awesome to listen to. I wanted to comment that I enjoyed the that parallel, or that having someone who is the child of a father and stepfather, so Adam, and then the father figure, stepfather to be, Sam, and that interrelationship between those two worlds, you know, colliding in this, was something that I found quite interesting and thought-provoking, as Adam shared his experiences as the Jack in Sam's picture, and Sam shares his experiences as Adam's, you know, stepfather in that role. I just find it just fascinating to see, and also just as we dance around with this notion of fatherhood in our mind, and I was thinking, you know, whilst you've already covered it in some ways, I did want to ask the question, Sam, what does the word fatherhood bring up in your mind? And yeah, that was going to be something that I wanted to ask you, not to try and curate an answer, but just for you to freely think, when I say fatherhood, what are the thoughts that come to mind? Because there's different levels. There's fatherhood, then there's you as a father, and there's a child who has you know, what when I say fatherhood to you, Sam, in your current life, what comes to mind?
I think there's a real balance. I often just think of, like, you know, strength, but also gentleness, you know, like, and, you know, it's kind of like leading, well, for me personally, leading with those two words, you know, it's to be strong and be able to know that you can take on this situation, but then come at it with a real place of, like, kindness, you know, and gentleness and sincerity, you know. I feel like that's really paid off for me, you know, with this, you know, relationship and family dynamic.
Yeah.
Well,
love
that's
it.
that is, yeah. I think that is something that I'd like to take away: strength and gentleness, and strength and kindness, and having that. And the strength isn't in that typical kind of perspective of physical strength, but it's in the strength, as you said, Sam, to to be able to push through those challenging times,
Mm.
but also that
Mm.
gentleness to address those challenging times.
Mm.
And we all know that we're talking about challenging times where things
Mm.
could become ugly and violent and all those types of things. But it's the
Yeah.
gentleness and the
Mm.
kindness to not
Mm.
use that approach. And I expect that to
Yeah.
come, Sam, from your world of experience, and you're
Mm.
a very wise guy for your age. And I just think hearing that is an inspiration that I can take away, and I think many people could take away, because we often find ourselves in situations that requires strength,
Mm.
but delivery
Mm.
of the outcome doesn't require strength; it requires kindness. It's
Yeah.
like that nexus of where those two things collide and transition.
Mm.
It's like coming up strength, but then changing and delivering kindness and gentleness. That's a challenge that I'd like to take on for this week. Thanks.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. No worries.
Love
You're
it.
welcome, Tom. Yeah.
With that,
Love it.
because Tom just brought something up, how old are you, Sam?
33 going on 34. So
Okay.
I meant
What do
to
you mean
ask that
mature?
earlier, actually.
What do you mean mature for his age, Tom? What's immature for his age? Oh, that's my age, mate. What are you
Firstly,
referring to here?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm referring to here. He is 33. He's talking about his concepts of fatherhood. He's everything that he's talked about today is clearly well articulated and well thought out. So he's spent years thinking
Yeah.
about this from all different paradigms, and that's why. And he's got something to share with us. A lot of people who are stepfathers, or in that same kind of 30 to 40 age, they haven't taken the time or just think about fatherhood, what it means. They haven't planned.
yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
Sam's
Yeah.
thought about it, consolidated his thoughts, planned how to do it, and can actually share his experience with us. And that's why I say, you're talking as if you've had, 50 years worth of experience, not just 30. So, yeah. Good.
Yeah, and honestly, Sam, I have to point out that just keep doing what you're doing, mate. Because as Tom pointed out, I don't know why I didn't really place myself in Jack's, as though I'm Jack. That's a really good point. Um, I think just keep doing what you're doing, mate. Your approach, is spot on. It doesn't mean that other people's approach isn't right if it's not the same as yours. What I mean by that is that it's the most likely to produce the best outcomes, in my own personal opinion, both as a lived experience. And I think, as I said, my sister took a lot longer to warm to him, but she did warm to him eventually. And the reason being, he never changed his approach, never. And so I think my only bit of advice for you, mate, is, maybe even use this as something to remember if you ever sort of go off track. Watch this again, because honestly, just keep doing what you're doing, mate. You're absolutely on the right track, and just keep, don't ever waver away from that, even when they're a teenager or an adult. My stepfather and I we have a really great relationship and always have. It's been rocky at times here and there, but it's never always been perfect. But I know that if I ever need anything, I know I can go to him, and that's all down to the fact that of his approach with me and that kind of thing, and how he was and how he has been with my mum. So, mate, an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I must say, you're lucky, because I was actually trying to get a moment to speak to Kate today to see if I can dig up any dirt on you that I could bring up, just to see if you would be, just to hold you accountable, or see if there's any childhood fun things that you could share with me. But
there is. Yeah, definitely.
I didn't have the time, so you're one lucky man, that's for sure. But it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you today, and keep being you, and we'll see you again soon.
No worries. Yeah, Adam, I just want to give a little bit of praise to you, but I remember even like maybe a couple of months back, or almost 6 months, I don't know, whatever it was, but I remember you just telling me about your, relationship with your stepdad, and, and just the things you shared with me, just saying, just love upon Jack, and just, just be there for him, and it just stood out to me so much. And I was just like, yeah, like that's what I need to do. Hey. And, and that's why it's so important to have these discussions and to talk, because they just, flick a little switch in your head and can make you just see things from a different perspective, and then you act upon it, accordingly. So, Adam, you're a special person to be doing this, and you asked some great questions as well. Yeah.
Thanks very much. I'd almost shed a tear if it wasn't so cold, but thank you, mate. That's really kind of you. Yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Before I do wrap up, and sorry, they're very kind words, mate. And I really appreciate that. Well, we'd like to thank our partners, Movember and Panda, Support for Fathers, SMS for Dads, Healthy Male, and Cope. We just want to make sure that people are, look into those websites, but they'll be in the notes. Just make sure that, that you have a look into them, particularly if you're having a bit of trouble at the moment, and, particularly reach out to Panda. They're a fantastic service that can help you through. But we are very, very grateful for the support that you all give. Again, Sam, thanks so much for coming on, mate, and we'll talk again soon.
No worries, you're welcome.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Sam, thanks again, mate, for sharing with us today. That was awesome, dude. If you would like to find out more about Dad's Group, join a digital Dad's Group session, which is where these podcast episodes are recorded from, or connect with some of our amazing partners, check out our website at www.dadsgroup.org, which we'll also add in our podcast notes for you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, and review, and please share with any dads and families that may benefit from hearing this podcast. Cheers, guys.